Hi, this is Lana Rose, founder of Conscious Concierge. And on my episode for the Business Growth Architect Show, I will discuss how to find more meaning and purpose in your life and explore your wellness, your spirituality, and figure out which modality is best for you at this point in your life, as there are many, many things to embark on that journey.
This is the Business Growth Architect Show for founders who don't follow trends, they set them. For entrepreneurs who aren't here to fix the past, but to build the future they actually want to live in. Hi, my name is Beate Gillette. I'm a Palisades fire survivor, strategist, and the entrepreneur behind a multi-million-dollar tech exit to the gates. And every week, I bring you the fire, real guests, real strategy, and the real talk on how to control your mind, move fast, and create your future. This is where strategy meets energy, because your next level needs both. Let's grow. Welcome back. This is your host, Beate Gillette from the Business Growth Architect Show. And today I'm talking to founder of the future, Lana Rose, also known as the Conscious Concierge. Lana Rose, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Me too, my friend. How are you?
I am excited because today we are going to talk about something that I get increasingly so. And those are questions around, Beate, you talk very openly about your ayahuasca journey. You talk about your connection to the divine, spirituality, all these kinds of concepts. And I feel that in the outside world and the external world, there's so much hostility and so many bad words and the language and the whatever might be going on that people are increasingly looking for. How do I center myself? What are the modalities that I can use to find peace? So you are Conscious Concierge. So tell us, what is that? What do you solve for your clients?
Yeah. So Conscious Concierge is a wellness concierge service. What I do is really help people assess where are they at in their physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional health journey. That looks different for everybody. And there are different tools that can work for everybody. And that changes at different times in someone's life, right? We're ever evolving beings. So what I really do is help someone figure that out and meet with them and assess what I think could be most supportive and connect them with the person, place, thing, or experience that I think fits their needs.
This is really super important because having gone through 2 very intense spiritual ayahuasca journeys, naturally I wonder, is it for everybody? Is everything for everybody? How do I know what's right for me?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of people don't know what's out there, right? We are really, as a society, we are given 2 options when we are dealing with physical, or really when we're dealing with mental health, therapy and pharmaceuticals. And those things can help and they are tools, but there's so much more out there. So I always say the first step is somebody learning what there even is. A lot of the time people come to me, I'd say 90% of people, they're either on pharmaceuticals or they've been to therapy for a long time. And they just don't understand why they don't feel better. And that's because those are beautiful tools. But again, there's so much more. So my first stop is always, again, assessing what is someone's exposure level to all of these different things and modalities, and who are they as a person, and meeting them where they're at, because we're all at varying levels of consciousness in different ways. So what I feel like my zone of genius really is zoning in on okay, where are they at in that journey? And then exposing them to different tools. Now, when it comes to plant medicine, I am more cognizant of the exposure of that. I really wait till someone brings that up to me versus giving them a suggestion of you should go sit with ayahuasca. And that's never going to come from my mouth. I still believe in the integrity of the medicine should call somebody, and it should be something that deeply resonates with them. So that's a different conversation. But on a general sense, that's how I first start when it comes to what is for somebody, exposing them to different tools.
What I want to ask you is I know that your own personal journey on how you got here isn't exactly a walk in the park where somebody handed you a bunch of or cookies in the process.
Yeah, not quite.
No, and I think that it's actually important. We rarely go in the story, but in your particular case, I think the story is actually important because you were in anybody's eyes a badass. You had it together. You made
Hmm.
boatloads of money. So tell us how did this come to be?
Yeah. I think you're right. It is a part that is crucial because it's the backbone of what this is built on. My career was in television advertising in New York City for over a decade. That was what I did. I worked for all the major TV networks that you probably know, not all, but some: Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Univision, which is a Spanish language TV network, VH1, CMT, MTV. So that was where I grew up in business, and it was amazing, and it really fit who I was at that time. You know, I was like social butterfly, loved nightlife. I loved entertaining. I just thrived in the sales role because, you know, I had the corporate card. I got to wear my fancy outfits and go to the best restaurants in Manhattan. My job was to bring in millions of dollars to the TV network. And a big part of that was schmoozing the media buyers. And I actually was a media buyer originally. So I knew the back end and the front end. That was an incredible time in my life and really like set the foundation for my business acumen. In COVID, I was in New York City, and that's kind of where everything started unraveling, I would say, for many of us. Yeah, because it was COVID. A lot of us had a spiritual awakening. Not to get too deep, that my boyfriend at the time was dealing with addiction. So I was really like between COVID and that on my knees trying to really figure out what I could do to feel better. And so that process with him and the process with COVID, really the options for me at the time were what I was doing, therapy and pharmaceuticals. But I had been in therapy since I was 6 years old, on and off. My parents and my family, we had a crazy story. So I was no stranger to the work. But those two things I felt kind of capped out. And I felt like with the medication, I just felt like there had to be something else. And I felt like my intuition was saying to dig a little bit deeper. I had a friend, Eric Nice, who maybe you know from the real world. He was very famous in the 90s. He was my neighbor growing up. And he was doing ayahuasca, and he was in Peru. And I called him and I was like, I just feel like I'm losing my mind. And everybody's telling me that the options are what they are. And he's like, that's not all there is. How quickly can you get to Peru? And I went to Peru and sat with the medicine. And from there, I was in South America traveling and living in Colombia. And I just went through all the different modalities. Plant medicine really broke me open. And I started seeing the matrix and the programs. And it was the beginning of like a whole new chapter. I was just turned 30. So I thought my life was ending naturally, but it was quite the beginning. And then I really dove deep out in South America with a lot of different modalities. I found my way into plant medicines and somatic practices and meditation and breath work, and then working to heal the body with functional medicine and naturopathic medicine, flying all over to go to retreats. I mean, I was doing anything and everything that I could do to feel better because I was terrified of how I felt mentally and physically. And so, long story short, through that journey, what I kept coming back to was, who is the person I can talk to about all these things? Because these things are all great, but I was working with like 7 different coaches and different plant medicines and different shamans. And at first it was liberating to find out, wow, there's this whole other world outside of therapy and medication. But I'm so overwhelmed. Who's legit? Who's taking advantage of me? What's for me? When is it for me? And so I kept coming back to the thought of like, God, I wish there was just someone I could talk to about the landscape. And so I ended up creating the very thing that I was really needing and wanting in that spiritual journey.
I think this is fascinating for many different reasons. And I want to pause and point out a few things because I think that when we look at the numbers, we see that anxiety and depression is, especially amongst the younger generation, at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is?
I've been asked this question a couple of times, and I feel really sure about my answer. First of all, I feel like as a society, we are completely disconnected to what we're doing here on planet Earth. I feel like nobody's really talking about how we are on a giant gaseous ball in the middle of the universe and we have no idea how we got here. We speculate and we have really no idea what happens when we leave. And I think from a really general sense, we're disconnected from that concept that we are a soul here for whatever reason, having a human experience. I think we're extremely disconnected to nature, which is what we come from. I think we're disconnected from each other. We're disconnected from things that actually matter.
The human experience in so many ways. I read something on Substack, which I thought was really profound, and it was from a Gen X. And he says there's never been any other generation that was expected to be as perfect as we are. Influencers by 12, YouTube followers, with 1.5 million by 13, doing major brand endorsements by the time we're 21, having this multi-million-dollar contract like Justin Bieber. And the pressure is just so intense that it has only one solution, which is an implosion of not good enough, the imposter syndrome, and all the stuff that we hear a lot about. So, was there a specific turning point where you said, "I need to be in service"?
Yeah, there definitely was, and just like, well, I guess I'll answer that because I wanted to make a point on what the kids are going through. Celebrity, so touch on that point about what children are going through with fame and influencers and all of that. If you think of Hollywood when we were growing up, Hollywood was something over here. It's something you could dream of, but it wasn't really tangible. And so we idolized celebrities and celebrity culture in Hollywood. I know I did. It was a huge part of my upbringing, like Perez Hilton and TRL and everything. But now with the internet, everybody can be famous and everybody can be an influencer. So I think they're dealing with a lot of that, and it's like almost expected because of social media. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, to answer your question on what was the turning point where I felt like I needed to be in service, I would say when I moved back from 3 years in Colombia to go back to my career because it was COVID and we were allowed to be out of the office. But when I went back to New York and got my stuff out of storage and put on my business clothes and went back to the office, it was all of like 2 weeks that I went back, inserted myself into my old life. And I was like, there is no way I can talk about anything but what I've learned in these last 3 years in this process with my mental and physical health. And the TV advertising industry is billions and billions of dollars, and I know it will exist long after me, long before me, but I felt like it was no longer something I could spend all of my time doing because I knew that it wasn't making the world a better place. And I think ayahuasca and plant medicine, of course, it gives us awareness, and we then choose what we are aware of. And I became very, very aware that time on earth is limited and that we all have missions here. And I just felt like super sure that mine was to carry forward all of the things I learned and do it in any way I could. And so I knew that it was time to leave that world and that version of myself that was successful in that world.
I can't help but sort of make this comparison to two things I hear all the time. Number one, the book, The Obstacle is the Way.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, The Miss is the Message.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's what you're telling me, is that you went through this, and in the transformation of what you're learning,
yeah,
you're figuring out where you are. Were you conscious about that this was happening? And the reason I'm asking this is like, I think that a lot of people have the calling or hear the call, but they don't trust it because they feel they don't have the authority to talk about what they're learning because they haven't fully learned it yet. So what do you say to that?
It's so true. And I still go through that. It's a really tough thing to navigate. I guess for the first part of it, when you were saying, was I conscious of it? Yes and no. I was conscious that there was a disconnect when I went back and everyone was going to happy hour and drinking and talking about like what shows they were watching. I was conscious that I had changed, but I was fighting it a lot because I wanted to be my old self. And I still navigate that to this day. So I was aware that I had changed and there was something I was changing into. But because I didn't have that thing and I didn't know what that thing was and concierge didn't exist, I was feeling awful and scared. And it was very challenging because I was like, well, if this isn't it, then what is? I knew I wasn't the shaman, the medicine woman. I knew I wasn't like necessarily like the healer or the retreat owner. So I was just like, well, I'm so passionate about this world, but where's my place in it? And then the second part of your question was, I mean, yeah, it was terrifying. I mean, I was sitting on my couch and I actually got laid off I was VP of sales and I knew they were going to lay us off because I left Univision, a big TV network, to go to a smaller, they're huge in Spain. They're a TV network called Marca, but they wanted us to start it up in the States. And I was so on my last leg. I was like taking a VP of sales job. Like there was no engine in the tank, but I was like, how can I say no to that? So I knew it was going to be a startup and I knew that they were probably going to slim down after the first few months. It was the numbers weren't there for like, it was just a huge venture to bring it to the States. And so 2 days after they laid me off, 2 days before, I was talking to my best friend who's now my boyfriend. And I was like, I almost hope that they do because I just don't have it in me anymore. And he was just like, look, your phone is ringing off the hook with people calling, asking you for what they should do for their mental health, like what you did, your birth control and how you got off, and then ayahuasca, and then what's a coach versus a therapist. He was like, you're running a service and you have no idea that you're running it. If they let you go, just take the leap and create something. Like this is your gift. Like you've always been a connector. You've always been the go-to for people. This is a thing. Like, and so sure enough, 2 days later, they let me go and he was like, let's do it. And so I was terrified, to answer your question. I was just like, what? I'm just going to invent something. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a coworker. I'm a colleague. I'm an employee. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My dad, my grandfather, all his brothers. But never did I think that I'd be one. So I really struggled with that. I'm not the expert. I'm not the guru. And one thing I can share for anyone who's listening that feels that way is what I've learned is always to speak from experience. Your personal experience is literally your magic. And it's yours and yours only. And I found that instead of teaching and preaching, I just started sharing my truth and what I knew and my opinion and my perspective. And that's all we have to do in the beginning.
I'm very grateful that you're sharing this so openly because I see a lot of people that are exiting corporate. And as they're exiting corporate and they are stepping into what they're called to do, they don't trust it. They're nervous about it. They feel that they don't have an experience. They want to go to the coaching federation, get a coaching. I just had a program this morning and one of the participants cried because we were in the presentation portion of Turn Your Talent into Business. And this is now where they talk about what for the last 8 weeks we worked on. And she reverted back to this really super safe, well, and here's our consulting program. And when I come in, and I stopped her and I said, this is not worthy of you. This is not this is not how you show up. You are somebody that people look up to. What can you tell people that are feeling the call, but they are not sure, they want that certainty that they really are, that this is really theirs to have, but they are doubtful.
I so resonate and I so still have those thoughts some days and in different ways. And I think that one thing that really helps me is just taking the next right step. It's like an AA slogan that I learned when I was in Al-Anon, when my ex was an addict, and they were just like, just take the next right step. And I feel like if we are given a thought or a dream or an idea, it's because God, source, energy, universe trusts us with it. And I think that what I can share from my experience is like, because I was terrified. I was like, who do I think I am? All the thoughts. But when I would just slow down, and when I do, because I do it daily, and just take the next step in what my intuition's telling me, put this out there, share this, create this, things started really moving for me. I originally was like looking for this perfect marketing plan, I had hired all these people to help me, and it was helpful. And at the same time, this work is like birthing a child. Right?
It's resonance. It's all about resonance. It's all about creating things that come to you. Yes.
Yeah. And so when I just started practicing following that, like practicing posting on the internet, which made me super uncomfortable, probably made my family uncomfortable, like creating a community. I feel like entrepreneurship in this work will really show you what you're made of. And for the better and the worse, if we can follow the intuitive information, and with that said, spending time connecting with yourself and getting quiet is very helpful, because that's where the information is coming from. It's very different than that world where I was just meeting people for coffee and networking and going and pushing and doing just like by force, by action. I feel that this work, there's action, but the information is coming from a different place. So we have to do things to access that information in different ways.
Yeah, and I want to lay this out sort of for our audience, just also to show on what happened, on how we kind of got together, because when we were both on the same ayahuasca journey, and you were what's called in this particular program an elevation leader. You were my elevation leader. And I'm listening to you and I'm watching you, and then I asked you, what do you charge? And you told me, and I went like, oh, no. You gotta more than double your fee, which you have since.
And yeah.
I'm so happy that you did that. And then I was listening some more to what you did. I asked you to take your message to my audience because I believe that this is an important thing for people to understand. When you step into this, things are coming together oftentimes in a very, very beautiful way, and people feel drawn to you. And just today, I had another one of my WhatsApp groups, and somebody says, "Oh, what was the name of that concierge again?" So it does kind of come up, and we can trust it. So I want to just, for completion purposes, can you take us maybe through a couple of ideas if somebody is curious about personal development? And we talked about plant medicine like ayahuasca. What are some of the things that people can have maybe a smaller entry into figuring out, opening up where they are in their spiritual journey, instead of like throwing them, into a Hoffman process or into an ayahuasca process or into, this really deep, intensive, immersive experience?
Yeah. It's a great question, because again, everyone is so different, and some people are ready for that and some people are not. And yeah, I mean, I would ask them a lot of questions to gauge what it is that would excite them. Is it working with a coach of some kind? There's the healing spectrum of the work, and there's the optimization spectrum. Some people come to me and they have physical ailments. I mean, I've had everything from cancer to gut issues to hormone issues. Some people come and they're extremely depressed, or they're looking to make CFO, C-suite, of a company. And some people, it just really ranges in terms of what they're needing. They're going through a divorce, or they're going through a breakup, or they just had a baby and they don't love their body. So depending on what it is, I mean, there's so much that we can explore. For example, my boyfriend, when he first came to me and was asking, I just feel kind of flat. I want to feel alive again. We sent him to a breathwork coach that I know, who's a men's coach, and he helps people to really just begin to tap in, connect with the breath. And he wanted guidance on that, and he wanted accountability. There's retreats. You can go to, I have yoga retreats or women's retreats where it's more, meditation, or again, yoga, or I have a detox and wellness center. Like, there's so many options. different women's circles and roundtables and things like that. When it comes to the body, I mean, again, if someone's dealing with mental health, your gut is your second brain. If they've looked at different options and they haven't looked at the body outside of traditional medicine, maybe I'm sending them to work with a functional and run some blood work and see what's going on there and with their gut and with their hormones. So, and within each of those verticals, there's a huge spectrum. There's more intense retreats and there's really good introduction retreats. There's a breathwork coach that you can work with once a week or you can work with once a month. So because there's such an umbrella of how you can do this work, really meeting with that person to understand where they at on that journey, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and then also what's their time commitment and their willingness. Oh, are they someone who's just like, I have so much time and I'm fully committed, or very, very busy and they have limited time. They have a family. So many parameters that I would assess before recommending something, but there are plenty of options that are not ayahuasca. And ayahuasca may never be a part of your journey. And that's okay too.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And that I think that was really important to just share that. I don't want any one of our listeners ever to feel that there is a particular pressure to go to any one thing that somebody recommends. In plant medicine, you'll know.
You'll know.
You'll know. If you're called, you'll know.
Yeah. And in the plant medicine world, there's a lot of different ways that you can sit with the medicine. We've talked about this. The place that we went and the place that you went prior, there's like a very social aspect, a networking aspect. But I had someone who booked a consultation yesterday and she's like, I am very shy and I don't feel comfortable I don't want to be in an environment with people. I just want to be in a really quaint environment. And I'm like, good, let's explore those options, you know? And so again, there's even in that world, a lot of varying options.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this has been a phenomenal conversation. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and talking about something a lot of people don't talk about or they are nervous about it. And the final question I have before we talk about how somebody can get in touch with you, people are nervous a little bit about, are some of these things legal? Legal and safe, I think, are the two things that probably come up all the time.
Yeah, it's really important. Safety is like my middle name. A lot of people call me the safety police, a little over the top with it because I just really feel that we need safety in this work, you know, and it can be really scary to wake up. I know I've had a lot of struggles with the awakening process that can happen after plant medicine. And so there's a lot of things that I will ask, you know, in order to deem if an experience is safe. How long have the people in the work been practicing? You know, did they do their studies with tribes and with the indigenous people? What are the guardrails put in place in the ceremony and the journeys? And yeah, just making sure that you have proper support before and after is a huge thing that I am passionate about. And whenever I recommend a retreat, I always want them to circle back after and just make sure they really feel supported in case anything comes up. We have a lot of integration specialists. And then we can change so much when we come out of these experiences. So having community is really key. You know, of course, at One Heart where we both went, there's a big community. I'm currently building my own community because I think in community we heal, and in community we can really feel seen and heard. And when we go on this journey of whether it's spirituality or personal development, it puts us in a smaller circle of people. And having that community where we really feel like we have our tribe and our people, that has taken me off some steep ledges for sure.
And I do want you to just maybe spend another minute on this, because that was one of the things that I had seen very clearly for you with your skill set and where you come from, and you know, just simply the attraction factor on how I see people are drawn to you. You are working on some of these things. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So the first community that I started and am starting is called Her Conscious Collective. It's going to be for women, not quite ready for the ashram, but definitely done with small talk, you know? So it's for the woman who's achieved success in her life, is powerhouse, strong, and is just knows she's meant for more and is craving that and like really ready to step into that. We're in a season of transformation as a society, and I think a lot of us are really feeling that. And I wanted to hold a space where we can just talk about health and spirituality and wellness. And there's so much information out there, and it can be really overwhelming and confusing. So just having a place that's like really emphasizing like the path is the path. Your path is your path. I want to be a place where people feel like they can come, you know, whether they're just trying to level up or they're losing their mind, and they know it's okay. And I'm walking alongside them. I'm on the journey too. I go through all the same things.
I love it. Thank you so much. Well, this has been an amazing experience. Where do we send anybody who wants to maybe talk to you now and find out how they could get started or deepen their spiritual journey?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram is always best at Your Conscious Concierge, or you can go to the website, www.yourconsciousconcierge.com. You can shoot me an email, lana@yourconsciousconcierge.com. My YouTube, my Conscious Conversations channel, where I have a series having conversations like this. I'm on YouTube, Conscious Concierge.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I love your openness, and you're not holding anything back. You say it as it is, and you say it so eloquently. I'm sure we are helping a lot of people with this conversation. So thanks for being here.
And thank you.
And that is it for us for today. If you know anybody, who needs to hear about the Conscious Concierge or wants to deepen their spiritual commitment, or you've had these conversations and you don't know how to help them, send them to Lana Rose, and she'll be right there for them. And with that, we say goodbye. That's it for this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you're done playing small and ready to build the future on your terms, subscribe, share, and help us reach more trailblazers like you. And if you're serious about creating, growing, and scaling a business that's aligned with who you are, schedule your Uncovery session at uncoverysession.com. Lead with vision. Move with purpose. Create your future.